Can you stall while moving? Let's find out today. So let's try going into 4th gear by accident for this sharp right corner coming up here. So I'm going to check my mirror and brake a bit, clutch down, change to gear 4. Car stutters and struggles a bit, but it keeps going, it's not stalled. But if I try to accelerate, it won't really accelerate. So I've got to go clutch down, into 3rd gear at this speed, clutch gently up, and on the accelerator on the gas. So in gear 4 you're probably not going to stall while you're moving. But what about gear 5? So I'm currently in 2nd gear, doing just over 20 miles an hour. So let's see what happens if I go into 5th gear by accident. And not a lot really. The car hasn't stalled, but the problem is I've put my foot fully to the floor of the accelerator and it's not really accelerating. The only reason it's accelerating now because it's going downhill. So what you learnt there, if you change up gears too high, it probably won't stall, but you won't be able to accelerate. So you'll need to change back down gears to be able to accelerate. Over the years, teaching people to learn to drive, it's very, very rare I've come across people stalling while they're moving, probably just a handful of times. So that shows you as well, it's very unlikely to stall while you're moving. The car will want to keep moving. It's kind of designed not to stall when you're moving, because it could be dangerous. But let's now see if I can try really hard to make the car stall when I'm moving. Let's see if I can make it happen. Now, next clip, I do manage to make the car stall. It's also a perfect example to explain why you do not always need to go handbrake and neutral if the car stalls. Many people think that on your driving test you must go handbrake neutral if the car stalls. They are often also taught this by their driving instructors. So I'm now going to be turning left into this next side road. Let's see what happens if I slow down, use my brakes to slow, and then change up to gear 5. So it's just stalled there, so we're going to clutch down into 2nd gear, restart the engine, and then gas and gently back off in the clutch. Now if this happens on your driving test, and you then went for the brake after stalling here, and then put the handbrake on, and when it's neutral, and there's a car behind you, the examiner is very likely to fail you. If there's no car behind, if the examiner's extremely nice also, you might just about get away with it. But if you can avoid going for the brake and keep rolling, and just restart the car and change down gears, the examiner has no reason to fail you, as you've done nothing dangerous. So you'll see there, it really struggled, it didn't want to stall, it's really trying to keep going. But 5th gear, at that speed, was about 10 miles an hour, just is too slow for 5th gear. An important thing is when it did stall, I did not brake. Because bear in mind, you just turned into a side road, if there's a car behind you, you just brake, the car behind is not going to understand why you're braking and could hit you. So if it stalls when you're moving, clutch down, restart the engine, and then select the appropriate gear. So let's try that again. So I'm going to be turning left just along here. So mirrors and signal left. I'm in 3rd gear at the moment, but let's imagine I've used my brakes to slow and I've got a bit confused and going to 5th gear. So I come off the brake and then come around the corner and bring my clutch up. It struggles and it stalls. So clutch down, restart. Into 1st gear this time because I'm practically stopped because there's a bit of a hill here. And then I'm off again. Again, noticing I did not brake when the car stalled. I just stayed calm, pressed the clutch down, restarted the engine, and then selected the appropriate gear, which would normally be either 1st or 2nd gear. 1st gear if you're going up a hill, or if you're practically stationary, or 2nd gear if you're rolling and the road's quite flat. But as you might work out, it's quite unlikely for this to happen, as it's quite unlikely you're going to accidentally go into gear 5 when turning into a side road. Maybe comment below if you've done this, but quite unlikely we'd have gone to gear 5 when turning into a side road. Now the other concern people have is if they're at a busy T-junction or roundabout and they're looking for their gap and then they try to pull out and they stall when they're trying to pull out, and then they're worried they're going to then jump forward into the traffic and get hit by the cars. So this then means they're very nervous to pull out if there's any cars coming. So they don't want to make a mistake and stall and get stopped and get hit by the cars. So let's try that. So I'm going to use second gear, which is one of the reasons why people often stall when they're pulling away. And I'm also going to pull away without pressing the gas, another reason that people stall. And also I'm going to pull away, bring the clutch up too quickly. So I'm in the wrong gear, I'm not going to do gas, I'm going to bring the clutch up too quickly. So almost definitely going to result in a stall. So let's see what happens. So my handbrake's off, I'm looking for my gap, and I've seen my gap, and I've stalled. I've not gone on it anywhere. So I'm still quite safe, I'm behind the give way line. So I'm just going to clutch down and restart the engine, then into first gear, and then this time I'm in the correct gear, I'm going to do my gas first, then find my biting point, hold my foot still at the biting point, and then pull out, keeping my feet still at the biting point, straightening the wheels, and then releasing my clutch. As you saw, if you stall when trying to pull away from stationary, the car's designed to just stay still and stop where it is, because it could be dangerous if it shot you forward into the traffic. So in some ways, you could say stalling is a safety feature. It stops you shooting forwards into the traffic if you get in a muddle with your pedals. If you're listening to the car carefully and respond promptly and calmly, you should not even stall while you're moving. You should be able to prevent it. So let's give you an example here. So I've got the roundabout coming up, I'm going to be turning left. So I'm going to go into fifth gear, because I'm at about 40 miles an hour, and I'm basically going to forget to change down gears. So I've done my mirrors, I've signalled left, and I'm just braking into the roundabout. Checking to the right, it's all clear to the right. You hear it rumbling to clutch down, and into second gear. So the moment you hear the car rumbling, stuttering, clutch down straight away. But make sure you calmly move the gear stick. So as soon as that clutch has gone down, the car's not going to stall. So don't feel you have to rush moving the gear sticks, you could then go into the wrong gear again. In this video, a lot of the examples I used were to do with not changing down gears after slowing for a junction. Now be very careful here, because a lot of people get worried about this, and then they decide the best idea is to change gears much earlier. Now this has its own problems. So imagine you're driving along, and you're using the brakes to slow down, and then you decide you need to go into first gear. But you go into first gear too early because you're worried if you leave it any later you'll forget. So you go clutch down. I felt a bit stiff that, I'll go with it. Oh. So what happened there? Well, I was driving along at about 20 miles an hour, then I went into gear 1. So what you must do is use your brakes to slow to get to the speed you want to go at, and then select the appropriate gear. Here are the rough speeds for each gear. So if I wanted to go into first gear, I should be between 0 and 10 miles an hour. As you saw, if I'm above that speed range, the engine will brake and slow me down to that speed range very rapidly. So remember, use your brakes to slow, and then change your gears when you're at the speed ready to go. You should not be doing brakes, changing gears, and then more brakes unless you're on a very steep downhill. As of course on a very steep hill, you'll need to continue to press the brakes while changing gear, and possibly still continue after changing gear, to stop yourself accelerating down the hill. So remember, in summary, if the car stalls when you're moving, stay calm, clutch down and restart the engine. Avoid braking, as the cars behind will not be expecting this. Keeping the clutch down, then select the appropriate gear for the speed you're at. Press your gas and smoothly release your clutch.